Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into a topic I know many of you think about. Shifting your mindset. Moving from that daily grind, working for a paycheck, to building a system where your money actually starts generating more money for you.
Right.
It's about getting financial knowledge that, well, actually sticks and helps you make real changes.
Absolutely. That feeling of just trading your time for money, it's something most of us know really well. Today, we're diving into some, let's say, powerful ideas that offer a different angle, a kind of shortcut to financial literacy, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. We're digging into Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Uh-huh.
And this book, it really throws some curveballs at the traditional financial advice we usually hear.
Mm-hmm.
And it does it through this really compelling lens. The author had two father figures with totally different beliefs about money.
And what makes it so valuable, I think, is that it doesn't just give you one path. It lays out two fundamentally different ways of looking at wealth, which forces you, the listener, to really engage with it, to think critically, and figure out what clicks with your own financial goals.
Okay, so our mission today is to unpack these contrasting views. We're focusing on the core stuff, assets, liabilities, and the absolutely critical role of financial education. We want to pull out insights you can actually use, things that might help you rethink how you approach building wealth. Because, let's be honest, most of us are taught, go to school, get a good job, work hard for that steady paycheck. That's the path.
And this deep dive challenges that, head on. It suggests that, earning a good income is important, sure, but it's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. The real game changer is understanding how to make your money, an active participant in building your future.
Okay, so let's get right into the heart of it. The contrasting dads. The author had this really unique setup, being shaped by two fathers with completely different worldviews, especially about money.
Yeah, and these weren't just casual opinions, right? They were deep beliefs that really drove their actions and ultimately shaped their financial outcomes. You see one of the biggest differences right at the start of the book.
Exactly. One dad, the poor dad, often said, "The love of money is the root of all evil." We've all heard variations of that.
Mm-hmm. Common saying.
But the other dad, the rich dad, countered with, "The lack of money is the root of all evil."
Wow.
Talk about two completely different starting points. How does that basic belief shape everything else?
Well, it's fascinating how these core ideas translate into action, isn't it? If you truly believe money itself is bad, you might maybe subconsciously avoid accumulating it. Or feel guilty if you do have it.
Right. Focus elsewhere.
Yeah, focus on non-material things. But if you believe that a lack of money causes problems, stress, limited options, that sort of thing, then you're naturally going to be more driven to build financial security, to create wealth. These aren't just philosophical points. They have real impacts on how we save, spend, invest.
And the different advice just kept coming, right? The book highlights this constant tension, like saving every penny versus actively investing those pennies.
Yeah.
Or focusing on crafting the perfect resume for a secure job versus creating business plans to actually create jobs.
That's almost a total reversal of conventional wisdom.
It really is.
Precisely. One dad emphasized playing it safe, seeking security above all else. The other encouraged calculated risks, building financial self-reliance. One sort of leaned towards depending on the system, maybe expecting raises or benefits to provide, while the other really stressed being financially smart and independent. Having these two strong opposing models forced the author to constantly question and analyze, not just blindly follow one path.
Which is such a good point for all of us, right?
Yeah.
We shouldn't just accept financial advice without thinking. We need to dig into it, understand the assumptions behind it, and see if it really fits our own values and goals.
Exactly. His ability to compare and contrast was a huge advantage. It built this habit of questioning, of critical thinking, which is just essential in finance. He wasn't just told what to do. He had to figure it out by weighing these two powerful influences.
This leads perfectly into another big point in the book: financial education. Or maybe the lack of it in traditional schooling. The author argues pretty strongly that we mostly learn about money at home.
Yeah.
Which could be a real issue if, our parents didn't have a strong financial foundation themselves.
And that's the concern, right? Many parents, with the best intentions, just pass down the habits and beliefs they learned. And those might not be the best strategies for building wealth today. The book mentions that common idea: go to school, get good grades, get a good job. The assumption is academic success just equals financial success.
But the book pushes back hard on that. It highlights how schools focus so much on academic and professional skills, basically training us to be good employees,
Right.
but often completely skip teaching basic financial skills.
Hmm.
We all know people who are brilliant doctors or lawyers, super successful professionally,
Yep.
but still struggle with their personal finances. It's like being an amazing chef who can't manage a grocery budget.
That's a perfect analogy. You can earn a lot, but still be financially illiterate. The book suggests this gap is a huge reason why so many people, even middle-class folks, get stuck in cycles of debt and worry no matter their income. They know how to earn money, but not how to manage it or make it grow effectively.
The book uses some great early stories to illustrate this. Let's talk about the toothpaste tube business. That one's memorable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As kids, the author and his friend Mike tried to get rich melting down lead toothpaste tubes to make fake nickels.
Yeah. Bit of childhood counterfeiting.
Yeah.
Creative, but not exactly legal.
Their parents quickly shut that down, pointing out the legal issues.
Right? Dreams dashed by intellectual property law. But even in that failure, the author's poor dad offered a really key lesson. He said something like, "You're only poor if you give up. The important thing is you did something."
That's such a crucial insight. Taking action, even if it fails, is better than doing nothing. Most people just dream about getting rich. These kids actually tried something. That spirit of trying, of resilience, is vital for building financial smarts.
Then there's that really pivotal story working for Mike's dad, the rich dad, for just 10 cents an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, on the surface, that sounds almost exploitative.
It really does seem that way at first glance. And the author definitely felt frustrated. He was already kind of bored with school, and now his Saturdays were spent doing tedious work for almost nothing. He was ready to quit.
But this was all part of Rich Dad's, let's say, unconventional teaching plan. He intentionally paid them peanuts to create that dissatisfaction, to make the author start asking why he was working just for wages, to open his mind to a different way of thinking about money. Rich Dad's core idea was, don't just work for money. Learn how to make money work for you.
And this is where you really see the start of that critical mindset shift. The low pay wasn't about being cheap. It was a lesson, a strategy to show the limits of just trading time for a wage. He wanted the author to feel that pinch, that not enough feeling, and start thinking creatively about generating income differently. He knew fear often keeps people stuck.
The book really hits on how that underlying fear of bills, losing your job, not having enough later traps, so many people in that working for money loop.
Exactly. It's a powerful motivator, fear is. But it often pushes people towards just seeking security in a job rather than towards financial independence. Rich Dad wanted the author to face that fear and learn to overcome it by getting smarter about money, by really understanding how it works. That early lesson set the stage for the whole book's main principle.
Which brings us right to what the book calls Rule #1. Know the difference between an asset and a liability. And buy assets.
Yeah.
Sounds almost too simple to be the secret to wealth, doesn't it?
It does sound deceptively simple. But the book argues most people either don't fully get it or they ignore it. Rich Dad gives these super clear definitions. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. End of story.
And he uses those cash flow diagrams, which are really helpful visually.
Yeah, those are great.
For an asset, you see cash flowing in, adding to your income. For a liability, you see cash flowing out as expenses.
They're powerful because they cut through all the jargon. They give you a clear picture of how things affect your monthly cash flow. Then the book gives concrete examples. Assets.
Yeah.
Rental income. Stock dividends. Maybe royalties from something you created.
Things that generate income.
Right. Liabilities. Your mortgage payments. Car loans. Credit card debt. Classic examples of money going out.
And I think that's where many people get tripped up. We're often told our house is our biggest asset. But by this definition, if it's constantly costing you money, mortgage, taxes, insurance, upkeep, it's actually acting like a liability month to month.
Precisely. And this is where that absurdly simple rule gets really important. A lot of people treat things they own that seem valuable, like an expensive car, or even the big house, as assets. But in reality, from a cash flow perspective, they're just draining money. They focus on acquiring things they think signify wealth, but don't actually generate income.
And this basic misunderstanding, the book argues, leads directly into what it calls the rat race. Can you break that down?
Sure. The rat race is basically that cycle where as your income goes up, your expenses and your debts tend to rise right along with it. Think about someone getting a raise. What's the first impulse? maybe a bigger house, a nicer car.
Yeah, upgrade the lifestyle.
Exactly. So income goes up, but the mortgage payment goes up, the car payment goes up. They're left in pretty much the same spot financially, just with more expensive stuff and bigger obligations.
So they're running faster on the wheel, working harder, earning more, but not actually getting closer to financial freedom because the liabilities just grew with the income.
That's it perfectly.
Right.
Running hard, but staying in the same place. The book contrasts the cash flow of, say, the poor and middle class, where expenses often eat up most or all of the income with the rich. For the rich, their assets generate more than enough income to cover expenses and the extra cash. It gets reinvested into buying more assets.
Oh, so it compounds.
Right. They focus on building that asset column, while many others are focused just on the income statement, climbing the ladder for a higher salary.
This leads to a really interesting definition of wealth the book mentions, borrowing from Buckminster Fuller. Wealth isn't just money, it's time.
Yeah, it's framed as a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward if they stopped working, based purely on their asset-generated income versus their expenses.
That really reframes it, doesn't it? It's
Yep.
not just about net worth on paper.
Exactly. It shifts the focus from how much stuff do I have to how long could I live off the income my assets generate. So if your assets bring in, say, $1,000 a month, but your expenses are $2,000, well, you can only survive half a month without your job.
Okay.
True wealth, in this view, is when your asset income covers your living expenses completely, meaning you're no longer dependent on that paycheck.
So the goal becomes, as the book puts it, minding your own business, which doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow necessarily.
Right, not necessarily.
It means focusing on building your own asset column separate from your job.
That's precisely it. While you're working your main job for income, the key is to consciously, simultaneously, direct money and effort towards buying or building real income-producing assets. It's about strategically building that foundation that will eventually give you more security, more options, and hopefully freedom.
And the book really warns against mistaking liabilities for assets, like that brand new car. Looks great, feels like an asset.
Yeah, but it loses value immediately.
And costs you money every month. Loan, insurance, gas, repairs. Money out, not in.
Exactly. The book lists categories of real assets. Businesses you own but don't have to run day to day. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, income-producing real estate, royalties from intellectual property.
Things that work for you.
Right. The common thread is they put money back into your pocket consistently. And a key point, luxuries, like that fancy watch or trip. Buy them with the income from your assets, not by going into debt or using your salary.
That really drives home the point about financial independence. Getting to where your assets pay for your lifestyle, that gives you control over your time, which is huge.
Exactly. Creating that financial engine that works for you 24/7 instead of you always having to work for it, that's the core mindset shift the book pushes for.
Now, the book also gets into some slightly more complex stuff, like using corporations and the importance of what it calls financial IQ.
Yes, it touches on how wealthier individuals often use legal structures like corporations to manage their finances and potentially reduce their tax burden. It highlights a key difference. Employees earn, get taxed, then spend. Corporations can often earn, spend on legitimate business expenses, and then get taxed on what's left.
So, using pre-tax dollars for expenses
Potentially, yes.
within the legal framework.
And it's crucial to stress this isn't about anything illegal. It's about understanding the rules of the game, legally using the structures available.
Absolutely. And doing that requires what the book calls financial IQ, which isn't just about being smart. It's defined as this synergy of understanding four things: accounting, investing, market dynamics, and the law.
So you need a broad base of financial knowledge.
You need to be financially savvy. Understand how money moves, how investments work, how legal structures impact things. The book even mentions the Cash Flow board game as a way to practice this kind of thinking in a safe environment. Learn how money works without risking real capital initially. There's a really great example in the book, too, about creating a $40,000 asset. I think it was a note, like a private loan,
Right.
which then generates passive income. And it contrasts that with how long it would take the average person to save $40,000 after taxes from their job.
That example really shows the power of leverage you get from financial intelligence. Instead of just saving taxed income bit by bit, if you understand how to create or buy income-generating assets, you can potentially speed up wealth creation significantly. That note, paying interest, that's money working for you, passively. It's a different way of building wealth.
Of course, switching to this mindset and actually building assets isn't always easy. The book talks about common roadblocks people hit, like fear.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Fear of losing money is huge. It's almost universal. But the book points out that financially successful people tend to manage that fear differently. They don't avoid risk entirely. They understand that setbacks, even failures, are part of learning. Avoiding all risk means avoiding big potential rewards, too. It's about managing risk, not running from it.
And then there's cynicism, that voice that says, oh, real estate, I don't want to fix toilets, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Letting preconceived notions or excuses stop you from even looking at an opportunity. The book uses Colonel Sanders as an example, achieving huge success late in life after countless rejections, overcoming fear and doubt.
That's a great story. It shows perseverance is key.
It really is. Cynicism often comes from, well, not really digging into something. It's easier to dismiss an idea than to actually investigate it, especially if it feels outside your comfort zone.
The book also brings up the pay yourself first idea, which isn't about skipping bills,
No, not at all.
but it's a strategy to prioritize building your assets. You allocate money to investments first before paying discretionary expenses.
Right. It creates this positive pressure. If you've already allocated money to your future assets, you're more motivated to find the money for everything else. It forces you to be more resourceful, maybe cut unnecessary spending, or find extra income. It makes your financial goals a real priority in your budget.
And finally, it hammers home the need for continuous learning, seeking out advice from people who've done what you want to do,
Yeah.
and maybe most importantly, taking action, even small steps, because that's how you really learn and move forward.
Financial intelligence isn't static. You don't just read one book and you're done. It's an ongoing journey. Learn, apply, make mistakes, learn from them, adapt. The book encourages thinking bigger, learning from history, and understanding that real-world experience, even with bumps along the way, is invaluable for developing real financial skill.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the core message really seems to be this fundamental shift in how you think about money.
Right.
Moving away from just working hard for money
Right.
and actively embracing the goal of building a system where your money works just as hard, maybe even harder, for you.
And a huge piece of that is truly getting the difference between assets, things, putting money in your pocket, and liabilities, things, taking money out. The book argues that conventional wisdom often blurs that line, which keeps a lot of people stuck financially.
We've looked at those contrasting philosophies, Rich Dad versus Poor Dad, and
Right.
the huge importance of financial education, which, often isn't taught in schools. It's about actively becoming financially literate yourself, understanding cash flow, making smart choices about where your money goes.
Ultimately, the book is a challenge, isn't it? It challenges you to question the usual advice about money, to face your financial fears, push past cynicism, and take consistent steps, even small ones, towards building your own asset column and boosting your financial knowledge. It's really about a dynamic journey of learning and applying that knowledge to build long-term security and real freedom.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. What if the most valuable skill today isn't just earning a big paycheck, but truly understanding how to make every single dollar you do earn work exponentially harder than you do? That's a question worth exploring, I think. It could genuinely redefine your financial future. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us into unlocking your financial potential.